Clear ESL. You are here today to watch a Q&A and later to participate about what your alternatives are when it comes to online freelance ESL teaching. I will apologize first off. I'm just getting over COVID, so if I'm a bit hoarse from time to time or I have a cough, sorry. But without further ado, I'm really excited to welcome our guest today, Allison Winzurk of EduDaptable. And she's here to give us her thoughts about alternatives to freelance. Welcome, Allison.
Hi, Crystal. I'm so glad to see
you.
Hey, I'm so well. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to have me on your live show. This is really fun.
Oh, I'm really excited that you're here. It's going to be fun. So just a note to all of our viewers, as you tune in, you can comment throughout the broadcast and ask your questions. We will read them and ask them periodically. There's a slight delay of about 10 seconds, so if we don't get to it straight away, don't be alarmed. We can always come back to it later. And just follow the link through StreamYard to register your name so that we know who we are speaking to, if that's okay. All right, Allison, tell us about you and a little bit about EduDaptable, if you will.
Sure. So I have got, my background is in education, just all the way back. I started teaching in '94, and I did ESL as my very first teaching job. I hadn't done a lot other than volunteer work prior to that, but that was my first teaching job out of the gate in a really small town in Nebraska. So that was it was a big learning curve, because I don't think everybody in that small town was ready for all the kiddos from other countries that had come in suddenly. From there, I moved to Georgia, and I taught in Georgia as well. Once I got out of teaching, I was actually working in a science and art center and then a science museum, where I spent about 15 years both teaching field trip programs, but also managing programs, creating the curriculum for the programs, that sort of thing. In the last 4 or 5 years, though, I worked for VIP Kid, just kind of a shift in life and wanting to kind of slow down my my lifestyle a little bit.
Yeah, and lose some sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, slow down my lifestyle because I was napping most of the day. So and I absolutely love that. And I know we've talked about this. I had just loved my kiddos, and I was heartbroken when when all of that changed so suddenly. I got onto some of the groups in Facebook, and it took me a while to adjust to thinking about what I'm going to do next, because it's so much overwhelmed. Just seeing these groups, everybody's in the same boat. It's like tens of thousands of teachers got laid off the same day, and it was just really overwhelming for me. But I thankfully was able to kind of process through without having to jump right back into something else. But as I watched these groups, I saw so many teachers who it just was like this panic. Nobody knew what to do. So I enjoy researching. I've got, like I said, I've got a pretty wide background, wide variety of experiences in my background. And I thought, well, let's see if I can help out and see if I've got something to offer other teachers. I'd had a small YouTube channel for VIP Kid and a small Facebook group, both also for VIP Kid. And I just kind of shifted that, rebranded a little bit, and it's still small. It's a little bit bigger than it was, but it's still pretty small. But I'm just trying to offer some suggestions and maybe think a little bit outside of the box, so that you're not doing just what everybody else is doing in an already oversaturated marketplace. So that's where I am today with EduDaptable. But I'm also still working. I'm working online, and I'm subbing in the public schools right now. So I'm doing these things as well, just still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, because there's so many options, So that's kind of where I am right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it is a struggle for a lot of teachers who, had varying levels of dependency on these online jobs. And even though there was, like you say, that massive surge immediately after the shutdowns, people still today are wondering what's next. And many people may have tried their hand at freelancing online and either don't know where to start or have given it a go and are a little bit hesitant to continue, or maybe they have had some success, but it's like not everything that they need to fill the gap every month. So that's where this comes in. This topic, I guess, it has a lot to do with both, segueing out of freelance or of online ESL teaching, but also of how possibly to keep a hand in a way. So maybe have, several different income streams. So what kind of teachers or what kind of situations, Allison, do you think it's a teacher might decide to look for an alternative to freelance ESL teaching?
Well, the first thing I want to say, Crystal, is I think that I've probably said this multiple times in videos or online or whatever it is, but I think that teachers really shortchange themselves. We have a tendency, especially those of us who've been in education forever, we have this tendency to think all I can do is teach. What else am I going to do? And there's that panic that kind of sets in because we think we have no other options.
100%.
But if you stop and think about what you do during the course of the day, teachers do so many things throughout the course of the day. And I mean, you're fighting fires all over the place. You're learning, you're teaching grammar. I mean, think about the options outside of teaching somebody how to write. You've got all of these other options. Who knows what you do at home, right? Maybe you're a bookkeeper for your husband's business or something like this. You have all these other skills. And I think that's really important, first of all, to remind teachers that you do have these skill sets, and not to sell yourself short, because as a teacher, I think you are so much more broadly experienced and prepared for doing other things if you're willing to.
So that's a huge starting point, isn't it? To drop back and really think, what is my skill set? What can I take from my 2, 4, 10 years of online teaching that's cross-functional, that can bring me into something new?
Exactly.
I think that's a first step, right? So
absolutely.
How can a teacher try to change up their teaching though? Like, so if you aren't quite there yet,
I think that's a really valid question then too. I think when you're thinking about freelancing, I do think it's really important to think about what your other options are, because freelancing takes a lot of work. I mean, I haven't monetized what I'm doing yet, and I'm still working on it all the time. And I know you I know anyway, but from interviewing you, I know that you are working all the time. So think about what else you can do outside of freelancing, even if that's the direction that you want to go. And then think about some of the, like you said, your skill sets, because there are a lot of things you can do. So we were talking about monetizing what you've done. So all of us who have worked online, we know how to teach in this kind of platform. We may or may not have already developed our own curriculum. We have all this experiential knowledge. So let's take that and, if you created a curriculum, start monetizing that. Now some of these things are not going to be instant income, because monetizing anything is going to take some time. That again, I know that but you can also there's so many platforms that want pre-recorded lessons as well. So go ahead and record some of your lessons. If you're really a dynamic teacher and you're engaged and excited and all of these sorts of things, that's going to be something that's going to pull people in also. So think about recording what you already have done. These are something, if you've already started freelancing, you could sell your recorded lessons to your students as some sort of additional add-on to your program. So maybe you have a low number of students. Well, go ahead and do your 3 students that you're doing, but then have an add-on on top of it of self-paced or enrichment programs, that sort of thing that you've already created, and you can pre-record, and then you can sell these over and over again, and you don't have to do anything with them a second time. You're done.
That golden passive income.
Exactly. And then you can also do, when you're experienced and comfortable in front of the camera, tutorials for teachers, those sorts of things. developing your own classes. People who are good at developing curriculum are probably going to be good at developing curriculum for teachers also, not just for the kids.
Right.
So if you can develop a curriculum, then you've got a class or a workshop that you can sell as well.
Right. Like a training workshop, a skills-based. Absolutely.
Exactly. And then there's always your parents out there, especially if you're working with Chinese kids. You know, when you were teaching VIP Kid, I know somebody else would show up every once in a while besides the 5-year-old student I was expecting. I'm like, that woman is not 5 years old. But there are, you know, other people that you are in contact with, other people in that family may want something also in regards to a lesson. And so think about, hey, mom, you know, if you've made some contact with her, again, here's a video, or here's a set of videos for you to step through with English, you know, kind of thing.
Right.
And when you're doing that, there's great curriculum. I happen to know someone who's got a business English program you could use, and you could use this and say, hey, I've got this pre-recorded one, self-paced, you know, that's an option as well. Now, again, as I said, Crystal,
if it's your own, you can't pre-record somebody else's, but
correct.
You can certainly do your own. And I love that, like approaching other people in the household. Even if you're struggling as a freelance teacher, why not approach people in already established relationships to sort of grow your student body organically through that way?
I think that's, yeah, I think that's a great idea. And you don't know who in that household is going to be interested, whether there's another child or get a parent, you know, maybe even grandma who doesn't
grandma.
Exactly. You don't know.
Maybe mention to mom or dad, you know, I also teach business English. Do you have a corporate setting that might benefit from this?
Oh, that's so good. And I think it's so important to develop those relationships. I'm sure you did the same thing when you were teaching for VIP Kid, where mom was sitting right there and you'd say something to mom, and pretty soon you're talking to mom. And now, you know, you've got that relationship with her. She's going to be your best relationship when it comes to building your business. So
she's chosen you. She has chosen you, so she will advocate for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I also think when you're doing this freelancing, I know we loved our Chinese kiddos, and there's so many reasons why. I mean, they were wonderful people, great students, but don't just say, I'm only going to do my Chinese kiddos because I've got WeChat. You know, there really are other places to do this, just to tutor, to find your students. And you can have your Chinese students, you can have, you know, students from Costa Rica. You know, you might even have some in your town that are ESOL students in the local school. You know, there really are a lot of options. And I know finding the students is the big thing. But I think for me, my direction is more like, well, what else can I do while I'm finding my students? So
so diversifying that.
Yeah.
So I loved what you said earlier about finding training opportunities to help other teachers. So, I mean, how could somebody go about identifying what other teachers might benefit from learning?
That is such a great question. Now, I think getting on those Facebook pages where the teachers are looking and just reading what they're asking and answering those questions in your training. I mean, if you know the answers, obviously, or if you can do
or research them.
I was going to say that, or do the research for them, because everybody's so busy and not everybody likes doing the research. So some of us love researching, and hey, I have got lists out the wazoo for you folks if you want them, you know, but not everybody is the same way. You'll see on some of these sites where one person posts, hey, here's this job opportunity. Everybody underneath says, give me the details, you know? And so if you have the details for this company or this company, share it with them, you know, and get on those Facebook pages and say, hey, here is my link, or look me up on YouTube, or here's my blog, whatever it is. And then here you are, you're self-marketing yourself in a free place. And again, you have to kind of watch, because some of these are like your site. I'm not going to market myself on your site because that is a place where you're marketing yours. But some of these are very broad, and they're just looking to generally help every teacher in whatever capacity that they can.
Well, and I think that a lot of admins and site moderators are open-minded. Like even on my site, I don't love a lot of spam, but if what you have to offer is a nice complement to what I have to offer, and I feel like it would be adding value, by all means, ask me. So I think if in doubt, just contact an admin. That's what they're there for.
That's a great idea. And I would also say, don't be discouraged if they say no, because some of these sites I've come to realize are so big that the admin do have to kind of say no on a lot of things just to keep things within their control, because some of them, they just blew up after the China golden bubble burst. So so they just like you said, just be respectful and ask, and don't take it personally if they say no. So that's an opportunity. But I also wanted to say, a lot of these are not going to be instant income. They're going to take time for you to do recording, editing, writing things, offering them, to find, again, a clientele, but there are things that you can do that are going to help you sustain yourself until you are fully on your feet freelancing. Just even things like OutSchool, for example. Now, I'm going to use that as a specific example because you can look at teacher marketplaces, like generally speaking, and you'll still find some of the same issues that you find freelancing, like finding clients. OutSchool, one thing that I've noticed about them recently is that they actually have people, let's say like you, Crystal, you've created this great curriculum, you're teaching this curriculum in OutSchool, but now you're so popular, you can't see all these students. So you're actually hiring teachers to teach your curriculum on OutSchool. So now you have crystal clear ESL as a umbrella for you and your 4 teachers. Well, and now you need more teachers. Where are you going to go? You're advertising with OutSchool to say, hey, I need more teachers. But a teacher who comes and teaches for you, there's a much better guarantee that she's going to be teaching, he or she is going to be teaching, than if you're just coming in new. So if you go to on Facebook, there's an unofficial OutSchool web page, and when you get on there, the only people they let post are those who are actually asking for teachers to join their groups on OutSchool. So there's an income. There's also putting your face out there, becoming a teacher that these students know, getting students. So when you're ready to step out, I'm not recommending you poach students, but you're going to have a broader base of what you can offer when you.
So how does that work? Do you know, Allison, if you run an OutSchool group or whatever of teachers, do the students pay you and you pay the teachers? Does OutSchool pay you and the teachers in some kind of split? Or
I think that is really going to depend on the person who is managing the group. And I would guess the smartest way would be, the simplest way is, yes, you're part of the crystal clear group, but you are a teacher for OutSchool and you're getting paid via OutSchool. Because otherwise, as the lead person, now you've got employees, it just changes the dynamic a lot. But again, there might be groups that are large enough that they are willing to do that. But I would think if you're just starting to do that, you're probably going to want to just be a group, have this group name, here are some teachers I can recommend, and then they're all part of OutSchool themselves.
I think that's a great idea. And also for somebody who wants to try their hand at curriculum development, but not commit to like a 600 or 700 lesson curriculum, like some crazy people that we know. But OutSchool loves, shorter, medium-term courses that are like a designated subject, like phonics or reading or whatever. And so that would be a great opportunity to develop a course of 12 or 20 or whatever lessons, and then just teach them and sell them as bundles of courses, and get other teachers on board with you eventually to sell your product as a course.
And they actually, I think it was on OutSchool, but they actually do what they call pods now. So if you're a social studies teacher and I'm a science teacher, we're working together to offer a bundle, like you said, to to kids. So this is something that's become more popular also. So you're not just doing this by yourself. So again, you're creating a curricula or creating curricula, and then you're working with another teacher. You're getting your name out there, and you're seeing if you want to be doing this outside of how good is my curriculum? Am I comfortable with this? Do I want to do all the business stuff, or do I like that, OutSchool is taking care of the business part of this and I'm just teaching my curriculum here? So
Right.
I think it gives you a kind of a foot in the water kind of feeling too.
Right. Cool. Okay. So let's assume that all of us fellow ESL teachers are here because we 100% love teaching. We love the relationships and the students. But freelancing just isn't working out. What other options do ESL teachers have outside of the standard online delivery method? Can we still be teachers?
I think so. Now, I really think you need to kind of decide if you want to stay within education, what you really have to get to that heart place and decide what do you want to do. Because for me, I really didn't think I was ever going to go back into the regular classroom. And in this day and age of COVID, I didn't think I would ever substitute in the regular classroom either. But in my district and in neighboring districts, they actually doubled the pay for subs for this school year. And so I was like, okay, I'm in. My job ended. This is not something that I have to commit to. But it gives me time to be working, and I don't even have to work every day. And I don't take anything home with me. I'm not responsible for the kids, nothing. But this gives me an opportunity to be working part-time and then work on my things the rest of the time, and I'm still getting paid enough. So, and I realize not every district is doing what my district's doing, but it's an income. Where are you at on this? What do you need? If you need an income, start looking at what your options are there. I know some districts you have to have you have to be a certified teacher. In my district is not that way. If you live in a place where you've got a neighboring district, their rules are not necessarily going to be the same. So check out your neighboring districts as well, because that's an option too. Wow. But subs are really in critical need, even in small towns right now. So, if you do live in a small town, this is a great time just to go in and talk to the local school and say, me, I went to school here when I was in 6th grade or whatever it is,
30 years ago.
Yeah. So, and they're in such a need that I think that the rules tend to be a little bit more flexible, a little bit more fluid in a time like this. So that's something to consider. Again,
you can go through the school itself. You can go subbing through the district and register through the district, and you could go through an external agency. Is that right?
So it really depends on the district. So in my district, I live just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. We have a huge district. So you have to go through their subbing office. Okay. So that took a little bit of time because with this bonus, they had a lot of people applying all at the same time. In a smaller town, it's a lot of who you know. I mean, in a big town, it's a lot of who you know too. But in a smaller town, you're going to have that who you know. But there's also, you can actually sub online for some of these online companies. So for me, I just started training yesterday for a company called Proximity, and they have online subs there. So they teach in the schools. I mean, they're not in the schools physically, but they're teaching online in the schools. They have online teachers in the schools, thousands of them. But those teachers need a sub, and they're teaching this specific curricula. And so you can go ahead and you can be a sub for these teachers. Now, the teachers who are in the school, they are certified. The subs don't have to be certified. If you do something like that, just make sure when you send in your resume, you're highlighting your educational background. A lot of us have such a wide variety of things that you could put, secretary, cook, whatever, all these different things, but just highlight what you know from.
Right. It's important to tailor your resume when you're serious about an application.
Yes. And I know that can be exhausting when you're applying a lot of different places, but it makes a huge difference.
Right.
So that's an option too. That one, like I said, there's another company called Fusion, and that company you don't have to be certified to do their online subbing as well. So that's another thing, another direction just to consider. If you do want to stay home. Mm-hmm.
So that's more subject based than ESL, but still
Correct.
teaching online. Yeah,
Correct.
I love it. That's so good. You could also look into offline students, couldn't you? If you've got subject knowledge, or if you have an ESL community nearby where you live.
Absolutely. And some schools are in such need that they are looking for somebody who is a subject expert, not just somebody who's certified. Now, obviously, they're going to want you to get certified down the line if this is something you're going to continue to do. But that's an option. But there are also tutoring companies that are working in office now. So if you look at something like Sylvan or Huntington, there's a company called Mathnasium. So again, depending on what your areas are, then you can go ahead and you can work with these. Now, again, when you've got ESOL teachers, you're probably going to be more inclined to be reading, writing, that sort of thing. But those are huge for everybody. A lot of people need those kind of tutors as well.
Right. And if what you love is instructing and sharing knowledge with others, I suppose you could also look at corporate training, couldn't you? If you have an educational background, you surely have the skills to deliver corporate lessons.
Absolutely. I think a lot of
ESL, I mean.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people discount things like Glassdoor, get on, or LinkedIn, get on there and just look. If that's something that you would be comfortable with doing, then just try and see, see if that's something that you want to do. It's like with VIP Kids, who knew how much we would love that job, So I just give yourself an opportunity to kind of explore these options outside of what you're comfortable with.
Right, exactly. There's opportunities out there. You just have to find them and think outside the box.
Right.
Okay, so let's say that we're a little tired of teaching itself and we're looking to, repurpose the skill set that we've acquired and the experience. What sort of things could we draw from our online ESL teaching to use in non-teaching roles?
So I think there are so many options when it comes to this. Some of it could be, again, looking at, even if you're an elementary teacher who teaches writing, well, is this something you really love that you're really good at? Well, what about copywriting? What about editing other people's copywriting? What about proofreading for companies? What about a lot of companies will have students writing their essays for college, and they need somebody to look at them and tell them what they need to do better. Now, you're not teaching necessarily, you're just basically kind of grading the papers.
Right.
There are also companies that need people to grade papers. I mean, they're just, if you're good with that sort of thing, you want to break from the face-to-face, there really are a lot of options out there. Again, you need to look and think about what you enjoy doing. Just because you were an elementary teacher who taught writing doesn't mean that you love writing, right?
Right.
So if you don't love it, consider that too. You're not going to want to invest all that time and effort into something that you're, 6 months down the line going, I don't want to do this. It's exhausting. You want to enjoy your job. But I think too, if you look at education companies online, you've got to realize that they have a whole staff on the back end that doesn't deal with the students. So think about, again, we can look at online subs, online parapros, that sort of thing that are on the front end. But what about the teacher recruiters? What about the enrollment specialists? What about the social media marketing? What about the personal assistant or the executive assistant to, the president of the company? What about the academic advisors, customer service, the person on chat? Again, content writing. So you do
well spoken, yeah.
Yes. So you've got all these jobs, just like in a brick and mortar business. You've got all of these jobs here. It's just that you're not seeing them. All you're seeing is the teacher, but
Right.
they are there on the back end. So
One
keep
that's becoming increasingly popular, which I love, especially for teachers maybe outside of VIP Kid who would have had more of a hand in lesson creation and development for their online teaching job, is the virtual assistant possibility. I think
yes.
so many companies worldwide are turning to more casual virtual assistants than employing somebody full-time and having to pay them, medical or pension or what have you. They'll just contract somebody on. So what better thing to do if what you love of online teaching happens to be the ability to work in your pajamas from your sofa?
Exactly. And if you've learned a lot of organizational skills from being an online teacher, having to deal with schedules and that sort of thing, you're going to be great at this sort of thing, And I think a lot of teachers have picked up new technology, learning how to pick up the technology quickly. Those sorts of things are going to also be a skill set that you will be able to sell when you're selling yourself to a different company.
That's so true. Yeah, absolutely. Like if you've used Canva, there are virtual assistant jobs that are solely on Canva creations. Or social
Oh,
media assistants. I have one for Crystal Clear ESL, and she is a godsend. I'll say, we should announce this chat today that we're having, and she'll just knock up some graphic and schedule up some posts and done. And it makes life so much easier. And she enjoys the design aspect as well. So it's win-win.
and if you're an educator, you know what you're trying to sell. You know what I'm saying? As you're creating, you know what you're trying to sell. I really love that, because when I was teaching for VIP Kid, I was in a Google Slides group, which was a really big group. And I got to be one of the editors on that group. And I was creating things and editing them. And I remember somebody saying to me, "Oh, so you got your creative outlet while you're doing this also." And I thought, "Oh, yeah, I do. I get to design and create." And so if you're somebody who you develop that skill set, having that option, just like you're saying, you're on Canva all day long, just playing and learning and creating. And if you do it for more than one person, that's an option too. I mean, you're going to have, obviously things are not going to look exactly the same, but you're going to have a certain style that you're going to kind of keep throughout with different people.
Right.
So you'll have a chance to kind of reuse some of your ideas again.
True.
Yeah.
And because it's so flexible, you have the capability to juggle a secondary job like that, like a social media assistant or a virtual assistant, with the freelance students that you have managed to onboard.
Exactly.
So it's easy
Yes.
to pick things up and leave them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I love that idea. And I was shocked when I started looking for those kind of personal assistants, how many people do want somebody like that, and how many young entrepreneurs there are out there that are looking for somebody who's doing that, their virtual personal assistant. Yeah.
I use for various things like Upwork or Fiverr. I would say people
Ah,
can go, before you even consider or get set upon what it is you want to supplement with or do next, look through their job postings and see what people are doing. That could really spark your imagination in terms of how you can add value and what your skill set can, link into.
right.
See what people are asking for, because Fiverr, for example, you have the people on there offering their skills, but then you also have different boards of people searching for skills. So perhaps there's a need that is not yet being, saturated, and you can fill that gap.
That's such a great idea. And I think that that's when you are looking for other options, just getting on those places, like you said, taking a look, does what you do fit the niche out there? Or, Crystal,
Yeah.
I look at you as an example of this. What's something I can do that's a step above, And when I hit that thing, maybe I've got something to offer that nobody realizes that they need yet. I mean, what you had to offer, nobody really needed at the time when you were creating it. And not to say that businesses are going to collapse or whatever it is, and then you're going to be able to step in. I'm just saying that technology and jobs change so fast right now.
About thinking ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So don't discount your idea just because, you don't see it everywhere. Maybe that's what makes your idea worthwhile.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that you can really you can't obviously predict the future, but you can use the way that technology and the industry and your interests are going to think
Mhm.
ahead of the curve.
There you go. I love that. And I think anybody who has a technological background right now and has done the Chinese programs like we did, the Chinese tutoring, has got a huge asset right there. I mean, if I knew how to write pages, how to build these things, and if I had the interest in finding out, I really think there's such a need, because you can go, oh yeah, people need scheduling software, people need payment software, people need this. You can just, what people need because you've been there and you're watching what everybody's complaining about on these boards. I can't get this to work. So
Yeah.
you've got this fantastic option, this fantastic skill set that you can start building things, like you said, maybe ahead of the curve because nobody else has done it yet.
It's funny that we were talking about this because for years, my husband, like so many other partners, is on my case about the hours I'd spend scrolling Facebook. And it turns out that my scrolling of Facebook built a keen industry knowledge where had the chance to get ahead of the curve because I saw things not before they happened, but I saw the general shifts in the
Yes.
market.
Yes.
So it's not all for nothing, those hours you spend.
Right, exactly. And I think too, for you, okay, when I was teaching for VIP Kid, all I focused on was VIP Kid. I was on their pages and that's it. For you, you were doing a broader search. I mean, you were looking broader. You were already doing the diversification.
Yes,
And so with any of us, I think that's what you've got to do. Go a little bit broader than just this one thing you've got your mind set on. I just want to do freelance. That's all I'm going to look at. Go a little bit broader, because even if you decide to work like on the back end of one of these companies, for example, think of all the things you are learning that you can use when you do freelance. I mean, think of all the skill sets, think of all the contacts you'll have, think of all the things you can learn in that kind of situation that would be applicable as you're doing the freelance.
right. And do it simultaneously.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Allison. I think that has been so informative. I hope that everybody has some real food for thought, some things to begin considering and researching, perhaps. I will remind everyone that both Allison and myself for Crystal Clear ESL have YouTube channels. Please subscribe and support us. You'll be updated with future content such as this. And thank you so much for your time and expertise.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to get to be here with you, Crystal. I always enjoy getting to chat with you.
Me too.
So much fun.
All right. Take care. I'll drop all the links in the comments. Okay. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.